Hello and welcome to the Looney Blues podcast with me, your host, Bryce Connor, and your co-host, Christopher Boyd. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Good Loon win. It was a Monday that I survived. How are you doing?
Yeah, same here, same here. Wishing we could have got to record on Sunday when things were a little bit more fresh in my mind. But Chris was maybe perhaps still a little under the weather from the Loons match. He had to spend, a couple of extra 30, 45 minutes in the beer garden after the game before his drive back to Wisconsin.
Having some water. I had some friends there, so it was nice to talk to them too. But yeah, that was an important hour that we spent processing liquids we had imbibed.
Yeah, for sure. And it was probably a good hour talking about the Loons' first home win. Overall, I was pretty pumped about our result. Good way to open the home opener, and I think that was the coldest match in Loons history. Not the coldest match in Allianz history. That goes to USA versus Honduras, which my brother was actually at a couple of years ago, and he described it as piercingly cold, so cold that the hot chocolate would freeze within 5 minutes of you getting it. So thank you for the report, Ryan.
Yeah, it was cold. The snow opener, I think, was 28. It was 22 at kickoff, give or take. It was pretty cold. It was not awesome weather, but a good game.
Yeah. It was bitter here in Wisconsin, and when you're out in the cold, sometimes it's hard to get the ball rolling, literally. But anyways, without going into that too much, I think we should probably get going into our format here on the Looney Blues podcast. For our post matches, we're going to try to stick to a format so you can kind of expect the same thing game after game. We like to ramble, so we can't guarantee that we will always be sticking to the format, but we will do our best to stick to the format. So our first category here, or our first segment, is the match in a sentence. Chris, can you hit me with your match in a sentence?
My match in a sentence: uneven Loons, see out quality win.
Yeah, that's a great one. You want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, much like the first game, first half had a lot of positives, had some iffy moments. We're playing out of the back, which is something that was a foreign concept to us last season, so we're still adjusting. New goalkeeper working with his back line, getting adjusted to that. But like last week, started to really gel as the half got going. Second half really started from where we left off, which is awesome. There's none of that reset that you sometimes see after intermission. And, scored a great goal, had some great chances, really solid defense again. We had, I almost said Dane. No Dane. Drake coming in with some key saves to see us out, but a good win. And they got better throughout the game, which is great. I don't like to see dips. I like to see just a steady ascension of quality.
For sure. I would definitely agree with that. I think that the first half was a little bit shaky, but they continued to get better, I would say, all the way up until the very, very end of the game, the dying moments of the game. There was some last-ditch defending, which, had us all on the edge of our seats, a little uncomfortable. We are always scared of that 1-1 draw at home. We always looking for those 3 points early in the season. It's very important to get off on the right foot. And that kind of leads me into my match in a sentence. Goodness gracious, which is we are freezing off the rust. That first bit of the game, you could tell the cold was getting to the players. The long balls were not long balling. We were trying to set Yeboah free on the runs. We were trying to set Bongi free on the runs, and the ball just got up into the air and died. I mean, our long balls were 10, 15 yards short, getting intercepted before our guys even had a chance, and then we were losing those second balls. It was really frustrating from our point of view in the first 15 minutes, but we froze off that rust. We started to look a lot better, and I would say we really came alive in that second half. I think Cam Knowles possibly made some tactical changes that we'll get into later in the show and kind of address what we think he was doing to counteract Cincinnati's defense, because in the first 15, 30 minutes, it was a little touch and go, but by the second half, we were in full control until kind of the dying moments. Our next segment is going to be called the Leading Loons. We're going to kind of touch on one or two of the players that we thought were our players of the match, guys that are either on the up and coming. So it might not necessarily always be somebody who is performing really, really well. For example, I think we'd end up talking about Joaquin Pereira almost every single game. That's usually what happens when you're the best player on the team, or hopefully when James Rodriguez comes into the team, we'll be talking about James Rodriguez every single week. So we might not always be talking about the guy who just had the standout performance. We might bring into somebody who is kind of up and coming or is having really positive performances in their role in the team. Because, like I said, when you have one player who just stands out week after week after week, we don't want to beat a dead horse here. We know Joaquin Pereira is a phenomenal player. But with that being said, my leading loon of the week is Joaquin Pereira.
Yeah.
That guy is a phenomenal player. Every single thing that Minnesota United had going for them that night went through Joaquin Pereira. Cincinnati just could not deal with him. His little flicks over the top. I really love that Cam Knowles has given him the freedom to roam the pitch wherever he wants to go. He's popping up on the left. He's popping up on the right. He's even acting as a second striker and leading the press sometimes with Yeboah. And I think that's a tactical shift that we're going to see this season is Joaquin Pereira or James Rodriguez. More Joaquin Pereira, just because I don't think James is going to have the legs to do what Joaquin does and necessarily the defensive ability. I think one of Joaquin Pereira's most underrated assets is his defensive ability. He is definitely more of an 8 than he is a 10. And in that respect, you're going to have to do your defensive duties. So I think the big shift in our tactics this year is going to be actually pressing instead of just sitting back and absorbing and playing out from the back, which is going to really accentuate Joaquin's ability on the ball, his ability off the ball, and he's going to be a phenomenal player for us this year because of that. Chris, do you have anything to add on Pereira?
I don't. It was a dominant performance. It was him at his best. This is how he was playing through the first half of last season when he was, in my opinion, he should have been in the discussion for MVP. Second half of the season wasn't bad at all, just not quite as flashy. Sillingtani might have had something to do with that. Who's to say? We're to say. No, just a really impressive performance. I had two other guys I wanted to shout out. Obviously, Drake Callender had some incredible saves. 2 solid games. What really impressed me and my wife, who is a avid Loons fan as well, is he's already communicating really well with the back line. They're listening to him, they're adjusting. That communication in that relationship is clearly not fully developed, but it's starting and it's there, really vocal, which even Dane, who I was a big fan of when he was here, struggled to do early on, that communication with the back line. And then Morris Duggan, just a solid overall match. I had been a huge proponent of his last season. I was sad to see him not get to play as much as I wanted him to. And he's just shown the clearances, the passing, just a really solid defender. I'm really excited to see him play more, hopefully, this season.
Yeah, and to interject there, Chris, because I want to touch on Duggan as well. I think Pereira was our number 1 leading loon. I think Duggan had to be number 2. Defensively speaking, he was fantastic. And then also what he's bringing to the buildup as well. One thing I'm noticing is that he's also kind of been given that freedom to come upfield, and he'll get in these pockets of space where he will just charge up through the middle of the pitch, taking up positions that you would typically see a 6 or an 8 take up, and he's able to find the passes that really progress the ball because of his courage and his freedom to take up spaces in midfield, even though he is a center back. And I think part of that is that he had Boxall with him. He did that a lot less after, I think it was the 71st minute when Boxall went off injured, concussion protocol, got poked in the eye. And, sometimes that can lead to a severe brain injury, I guess. Which, all fairness to the medical team, I think that's a great idea. If it's a possible head injury and you can use a concussion sub, you should. It's smart man management. But hopefully Box will be all right for the next game. It looked on TV that he just got poked in the eye pretty hard. But I noticed that Duggan was taking less of those positions forward after he was subbed off. He kind of took that role on as being the destroyer, the last line of defense. And you can see some of those last ditch clearances in the last 15 minutes of the match came when Boxall was off. Duggan definitely stepped up to the task. So other than that, I have one more loon that I'd like to talk about, and that is Calvin Yeboah. Calvin Yeboah in the last 2 games, 2 goals, 2 games. I mean, he's leading the Golden Boot for MNUFC. I think he's going to probably take the Golden Boot for Minnesota United. It's a big season for him. He really, really needs to step up to the plate and to continue to give these performances if Minnesota United want to move on and go deep into playoffs. I think that we're going to qualify for playoffs. We're probably going to be in that 4th or 5th, or 4th, 5th, maybe even 3rd spot in the conference and secure our playoff spot. But if we want to go deep, we're going to need Calvin Yeboah scoring lots of goals this season. And some of his touches, some of his passing, he was beating players off of the dribble. He was looking faster than usual. And Chris knows this. I described Yeboah's running form as if he had bricks tied to his feet. He's not a slow player. It just looks like he's running really slow for some reason, and I don't really understand it. But he's going to be having he has had a fantastic start to the season, and hopefully that will only improve. Speaking of Calvin Yeboah and Drake Callender, I think we give our shout out to the moment of the match. So what do you want to take, Chris? I think you might be muted. All right, after some technical difficulties, we are back on the show, and Chris was just about to tell us what his moment of the match was.
Yep, I had 2. I'm going to shout out the goal. It's the easy one, but goals win games. A great coach once said. I think a mediocre coach too. It was really great to see. My seats were down at the other end away from the Wonderwall, so I didn't have a great view of it. But we'd been attacking really well, creating some good chances. Free kick right outside of the area. Some discussion about if it was in or out of the area, it looked like from where I was. And then Chankalai, great free kick off the post. Yeboah right there to knock it in. Cincy demonstrating why I tell my defenders not to stand around watching when I coach a team. It's just a really great moment for the team, moment for the fans. We needed it. The fans loved to see it. Great to see Kelvin back on the score sheet again. 10 out of 10 moment.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I was ecstatic. I was sitting there watching it. And when I watched Joaquin Pereira step up to the ball, I thought he was going to be taking it. They were sitting there. Him and Chankalai were whispering sweet nothings to each other. Yeboah got in there and he was like, let me take it. Let me take it. Nah, you're not taking this. But I for sure thought Joaquin Pereira was going to be taking this free kick after he had some serious success in the last season. I was actually at the Seattle game when he stuck it into the side netting in playoffs, and that was ecstatic. I have never been so elated to watch a free kick go in. It was incredible, and I was thinking to myself, 19 yards out, he's left-footed. Let's maybe not, but Thomas Chankalai steps up and he fires it in. It deflects off of Michael Boxall's arm, I believe, or his hip, and deflects off the post. Cincinnati's defense standing completely still. But you know who's not standing still? Calvin Yeboah's brick feet. Those are not standing still. He was rocketing to the ball, and he gets his dome on it, and double celebration. It was fantastic. On TV, The crowd erupted. It sounded fantastic. I was really, really excited for that. My cat is getting into the blinds right now. I don't know.
Excellent.
I really hope that sound does not come onto the pod because he is tweaking out right now in the corner. But anyways, great moment of the match. I'm going to go with 2 here. We're going to go with, actually, we'll do 3. 3 quick ones here, though. 70, immediately after we score the goal, Drake Callender comes across with a fantastic save to keep us in the game, keep us on top. And then again in the 90th minute, he makes a fantastic diving save, stretch across, gets a strong hand to the ball and deflects it out. It was a really fantastic performance by Drake Callender. I'm really excited to see what I'm seeing. He's showing that he has the shot stopping of Dane St. Clair, and the back line giving him the ball is showing that they trust him to make the distribution decisions that are going to best help the team. All right, I'm going to trust that the pauses here will stop. I got to go get my cat.
Sounds good.
All right, I threw him in with his mother. All right. Yeah, he is locked in the bedroom. He's in bedroom jail. So those were 2 moments of the match. My third moment of the match is the halftime tifo. The tifo at the beginning of the match, and then the halftime where they walked some people out, some community activists. I think that sends a very strong message to the people of Minnesota. The "We Have Friends Everywhere" tifo was fantastic. Chris and I are both from Wisconsin. We were not directly impacted by the political, let's call it, occupation of Minneapolis. However, we are proud supporters of Minnesota United, and therefore we are proud that the Wonderwall put this together and said, hey, you know what? We have friends everywhere we go. And yes, we can confirm that you do indeed have friends across the border, even though, let's say, baseball season, football season, we might not feel the same way. But as a fellow Loon, we sure do. So for our next segment, we're going to be kind of looking at stuff from a little bit more of a negative lens here. This segment's going to be called Pitch Improvement. We're looking at which players could be improving out there on the field, both on a personal level, or we could look at things from a tactical level. Let's say, for example, and let's hope this never happens, but Cam Knowles gets it horribly, horribly wrong, and we have to pick him as the pitch improvement. It might not be a single player. It could be something that is a philosophy of the team. Let's say, for example, playing out from the back. If that just starts backfiring and we start conceding goals left, right, and center because our back line cannot play the ball and we just got to keep going long every time, we'll talk about it. But for today's pitch improvement, I'll start off here. I'm going to go with Bongi. I think that Bongi as a player needs to develop his decision making in critical times. There were a couple of moments throughout this match where he had the ball in a fantastic position, whether that was playing the ball off Joaquin Pereira and the little give and goes, or making a run off Yeboah when we were sending a long ball down, or just using his unbelievable pace to get out and get himself one-on-one with a defender. I remember early on in the game, I think it was around the 15th minute or so, he was one-on-one with a defender, so one defender to beat and the goalkeeper. And he got about 8 to 10 yards out and just stopped and stood upright with the ball at his feet. And I was thinking in that moment, just do something. Just anything, whether it's a step over and shoot with on your left, or try to cut in on your right and take the shot at the bottom corner. Anything is better than just standing and waiting for all of Cincinnati's back line to get into shape. And so a little bit more decisiveness on the ball. We wanted to be able to get the pod up for the Austin game, but just due to us kind of being a newer podcast, we weren't able to kind of get everything going in time for that. And Bongi would have been a pitch improvement player for that game as well. Sometimes his first touch and his decision making just needs to be a little bit better. And I'm hoping that that's just a bit of rust, because he seemed to be a very prolific player 2 seasons ago when he was up in the attack more. Last season, Eric Ramsey dropped him back, and he was in that right wing back position, not getting up and attacking as much as we had liked him to do. So maybe this is just a bit of attacking rust. Scoring goals is hard to do. It's the hardest thing you can do in soccer. And so it's positive that he's creating these chances. It's the decisiveness in those actions that needs to improve if he wants to perform at the level that we need to perform at to be a successful team. You have anything to add on to that, Chris?
Yeah, I think you kind of touched on it. I think he's adjusting to another new role. When he came into Minnesota, he was a striker, winger type. He got shifted to being a wingback, and he developed into a very capable wingback. I had my concerns when they started that. And you know what? He did really well. He just looked a little positionally lost, not quite sure what to do. And I've coached, not obviously at this level, but I've coached players when they start doing something new, and it's exactly what you were talking about, indecisiveness. You used to say any decision is better than no decision, and that Bangi just got to get out of his head a little bit. I truly think he has the ability to be a contributor in this kind of wide midfieldy role that he seems to be inhabiting. Stay a little bit wider. He's pinching in a lot and just taking up space instead of creating that attacking width, and then decision making just generally ineffective. What I think really sells it on us that we're not seeing smoke is he had 29 touches. That is the fewest of any starter, including all of the defenders and the goalkeeper. That's just not what you want to see out of an attacker who played a full 90 minutes before getting subbed off. And there's maybe some scheming going on there with Chankalai being on the other side of the field and playing through him a lot. He's with Pereira, who's going to suck up the ball a lot, but getting a little bit more involved. And to do that, I think he needs to find the space as we get forward, find those runs. Just need some more time. I'm not
Sure.
ready to say he's cooked.
Yeah, he's definitely not cooked by any means. He's not done for in the team. He definitely still has a spot, although, and we'll probably get into this in our not in the next segment, but the segment following, a bit more on what this could mean for him and his future at the club with James Rodriguez coming in. James Rodriguez is probably going to be a written in pen or written in permanent marker on the team sheet for the next 6 months, as soon as he is fit enough to get out there and play in these. Sorry, Kaz again. He's going to have to get used to this being locked in bedroom jail. But as I was saying, Chankalai, he had some really positive performances. It wasn't anything to say, yep, he's a leading loon for today's game, and it definitely wasn't pitch improvement. He was playing better than Bangi. Him and Pereira link up very well together, and when James Rodriguez comes into this side, he's going to be a starter. And so Bangi needs to definitely work on his decisiveness and making sure that he can contribute to the final action. Otherwise, he might not have a role in the team in the long run, or at least in the next 6 months while James is at the club prior to the World Cup. We can only hope that he decides to stay after having 30 gold contributions in 6 months. Let's shoot for that.
I mean, what an opportunity for Bangi, though, to learn from a guy like James while playing with guys with the quality of Chankalai, Pereira, Triantis, all of these great players.
Yeah,
I think he's in a really good position to improve, even if he's not playing in minutes like he was last season.
Yeah, he's got definitely the opportunity to improve. One thing that I think that Bangi needs to focus on is staying more out on the touchline. He is probably the fastest player at Minnesota United, and staying and keeping that width will be very important, because it seems like Chankalai, he has freedom to roam a little bit. Pereira has unlimited freedom to roam. He can go wherever he wants. But Chankalai was popping up on that right in those right half spaces as well. And if you have Bangi stretching out the defense, and then Pereira and Chankalai coming in closer to the middle in those right half spaces, and Yeboah creating space on the opposite wing in the left half space, that's going to that's what you want to see out of your attack, because you have two players that are creating space for the players who are more creative. And Pereira, if he can pick a pass to Yeboah, who's making a run off that left half space, is going to put him onto his strong foot, and he's going to be able to get a shot off, which is what we want to see. And then his combination with Chancalay was really, really exciting to see. I think that over the next couple of weeks here, we're going to see an evolution into the team with James Rodriguez integrating in. And I just think that Chancalay's performances have been good enough that I don't think he's going to be coming off the field. I think maybe his role will be changing in the next couple of weeks, because James Rodriguez is going to be in the middle of the field and he's going to be creating alongside Pereira. And so maybe Chancalay is going to be out on the width, and he's going to be keeping that touchline width for us and creating that space in the middle by dragging defenders out, because either a left back or a right back is going to have to follow along with him, or it's going to create an open run for him to get down to the byline and either cut in, take a shot, or send a cross in for Yeboah to get his forehead on, which is exciting. It's really exciting for Minnesota United. So I took Bongi. Who do you want to take? Do you have anyone for pitch improvement, or
I do. He was my first choice, but I do have a second. Just a couple of minutes or a couple of sentences here. Mine would be Diaz. He just was a little off. I think he's a very solid defender usually. I think that he probably is less comfortable playing on the right side of defense just because he hasn't done it as much lately. But few examples here. He lost most of his duels. He only won 4 out of 14 between on and ground and in-air duels. He got dribbled around 3 times, although he did recover very well. I'm not worried at all. I think he's more comfortable in the middle of the defense. When we get maybe Duncan in to play in that right spot and he moves back to the middle, or Romero is in and he's partnered with him somewhere, I'm not worried at all. Just not his best game.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Bongi was my number one, Diaz was number 2, and then I'm not going to touch on Marcanic, but I just don't think it was his best game. You can tell it's a little bit of rust. The cold got to him. His positioning was fine. He was getting in good positions, and that's why I'm not giving him a pitch improvement. It was similar to Bongi, but it only happened twice where he got into positions and did not execute. Sent in a bad cross to nobody at one point, and then off a volley. Now, granted, this was a left back we're talking about, and I'm telling him to get a shot on goal off a volley. That's why, like I said, I'm not gonna dig into him too hard. But it's, it was an open chance and an opportunity to get a shot on goal. And what you'll come to find out with me is that shots is a very, very important stat that we're going to be looking at. And the way that we can create more shots and create more XG is going to make me, Bryce, a very happy individual. So moving on from pitch improvement, let's take a look at the enemy's angle here. Any performances stand out to you in terms of players that you think on Cincinnati really took the game by the horns? And I have one for sure contender who was, in my opinion, pretty phenomenal. But Chris, you go ahead.
Sure. I'll be honest. I had to look up who it was because I did not have a program, but Brian Ramirez did really well going down their left flank. A really good player for them. I would say probably had their best game. Certainly the best in attack, I think. The only other player that I would consider as far as their best was be their goalkeeper, who I thought had a really good game also. But shout out Brian Ramirez, really important. They just looked disconnected, still getting to know each other, maybe getting to know how to play each other. I'm not the closest follower of FC Cincinnati, so I don't know where they're coming from exactly. But yeah, shout out to Ramirez. I have an affinity for anybody named Ramirez.
Yeah. He definitely did well. He provided most of their attacking threat, and a lot of their chances came through him. Great shout there. Their keeper, solid performance on him, by him. One other person I had, he had a really, really positive first half and a really positive beginning to their second half. Miles Robinson at center back. it just seemed like every time that we were in a position to shoot and to take a high XG shot, he was cutting it out. There was one chance in particular, I believe it was Calvin Uboa running down, and he was actually in the right half space, made a run into the right half space and was about to take a shot at goal. It was just him and the keeper, and Miles Robinson comes in, slides, and deflects it out for a corner. And that would have been right in front of you, Chris, actually, I think. That was over on the beer garden side. Do you remember this chance?
I do. It was really exciting until it was frustrating. It was a great interception tackle by Robinson.
Yeah, I said,
I was crouched in my seat trying not to block the people behind me.
yeah, for sure. And like I said, he didn't have like a stunner of a game. It's just he came up in just a couple of really clutch moments for Cincinnati and kind of ruined our fun a little bit. He's definitely a player to look at. He's a U.S. men's national team player. He's going to be in the World Cup squad, probably not actually on the field very much, but I would be surprised if he did not at least make the reserves bench for the World Cup squad. But like I said, let's get moving on. Our second to last segment here, the Looney Lens. We're going to be looking at this game in kind of the bigger scale of things. I already touched on it a bit with Bongi and his future, so I'll let Chris take the lead on this one again. Like I said, I already kind of talked and touched on Bongi, his future, possibly dropping out of the squad because James will be coming in and Chancellay played really well. I don't see Bongi getting into the squad much other than substitute minutes because James Rodriguez, he's going to be a 60-minute man probably.
Yeah, that seems a safe bet.
Yeah, Bongi's going to be getting on the last 30 minutes against tired legs. And honestly, that might be a fantastic role for him with his speed. Get him on the last 30 minutes of the match and just let him be a pace demon. He's going to run down the lines, and he's going to be the one creating our chances at the end of games against tired legs. But Chris, go ahead. What do you think? Big scheme of things. What did this match mean for us?
Yeah, I mean, it's early days yet, 2 match weeks away. Always great to get that first win off the books. Really nice to see it at home, undefeated on the season so far. And we are showing signs of what we can be when we're at our best. There were some moments in both halves where there's just really fluid attacking passing play. Nothing like anything we saw last season. And I'm not a Ramsey doomer. I was happy to watch terrorist ball as long as we were winning, but it was really nice to see some fluid attacking play out of Minnesota. We got to build that consistency. There were some non-starters, some dead on arrivals playing out of the back here, but we got there. Getting the first choice lineup is going to be really big. James is a big one. I'm really interested in Duncan slotting in at the right back, give us some more depth and some more options there. Romero not playing at center back is maybe what I'm most concerned about. He's been a healthy scratch now twice. There's speculation as to what's going on. Until I hear something, I'm not going to panic, but I'm definitely curious about it. I think Bongi, like you said, coming in and subbing in for Chancellay or James is going to be really, really good. I think it's going to give us depth that we didn't have last year. Last year, our starters come off and the subs come on, and it was a really noticeable drop. And hopefully with some of those defensive subs and now Bongi in attack, we don't have that drop and we have an actual option to give somebody some minutes and some rest if they need it. I'm really more optimistic than I was 2 weeks ago, having seen these 2 matches.
Yeah, I am as well. I think that these last 2 matches, they've definitely been growing my confidence in the team to actually go ahead and make this season something to remember. It is the 10th season for Minnesota United. It would mean the world to the fans and to the supporters to make this season mean something, especially with everything that's going on in Minneapolis. So looking ahead, we will be facing Nashville FC this upcoming Saturday. It is Saturday, right? This match?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. So Nashville was on a 3-game unbeaten streak. However, they were held to a draw against FC Dallas on the 28th, and not really too much of a notable performance other than one thing. In the 4th minute, Cochran decided, red card it is for me. So they are going to be missing one of their influential midfielders. He was actually having a pretty impressive game up until that red card. So I think this is a very winnable game for Minnesota United. We're going to be going down to Nashville, Tennessee to play. And do you think this is going to be the match that we see the James Rodriguez debut?
I sure hope so. I was hoping to see 20 minutes out of him this weekend, but we're defending a league. Doesn't make any sense. I understand why they didn't sub him in. I think it would be a big boost to our chances if he can play. This is one that I'm a little nervous about. They haven't had the awesomest start to the season so far. We're going to be helped because, as you mentioned, they'll be missing Corcoran. Apologies. Questionable, according to FOTMob, if Sam Surridge or Xavier Valdez is going to play. They're both sick, so we'll see. That would be a really big boom, especially if Surridge was out. He's one of their better attackers. It's going to be interesting. We haven't played Nashville for 2.5 years or so. We lost to them 5-0, but that was in the Leagues Cup, so who knows what's going on with our lineups there. I think it's going to be a tough game, tough test, but we are helped by they have a little bit of a crowded schedule playing in the Champions League. Red card and sicknesses may be giving us some help too. We'll see. I'm excited, but it's going to be a tough one, I think.
I am as well. Do you think if James is getting on, do you think it's going to be a 60-minute, a 45-minute, or 25 minutes at the end, 25 minutes at the end?
I think it'll be, if he starts, it'll be a planned sub at half. I think late sub is probably more likely, which then if we're in the lead again, we probably don't see him unless we feel really confident in that lead, just because he is probably a defensive liability. But we will see. I'm hoping for a start in at least a half a play. I don't think he goes a full 60. I don't think we'll ever see him go a full 90, and that's not... The man is 34 years old. I'm older than that, and I know how I feel after I've been running around for half an hour. So props to him for actually playing a sport.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's going to have 2 full weeks of training under his belt. Yes, he was not playing anything organized, but when you are a professional footballer, and even though 34 years old, Boxall's almost 40, and
he's younger than me too. Thanks for reminding me of that.
If it makes you feel any better, I think Calvin Yaboa is 1 day younger than me, so I'm sitting well here. I can still start my Minnesota United career. Definitely, I'd probably have to lose 45 pounds, but I could do it. I could.
So we'll see you at the next ID camp, is what I'm hearing.
Probably not. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw 60 minutes out of James Rodriguez. I mean, that is me being a hopeful. Maybe that's my youth coming out here and just being idealistic, optimistic, hopeful for just to see him. I'm just so desperate to see this player, especially after being basically told by our sporting director, we aren't spending money. We're not making big signings. We're not doing that. And then James Rodriguez comes out of nowhere a week before the season starts, a couple of days before the Coachella Open or the Coachella Valley Invitational. And we're not getting a lot of training footage, a couple of snippets, 10-second clips of him putting a pass in, a lot of him aura farming, as the kids would say. And so I'm really excited for this player. I think that if he gets this start, it'll be awesome. Part of me also wants him to not see the field until they come back to Minnesota when I will be there. And I can listen to the crowd erupt and as we welcome him as a Loon. So without further ado, it is a little after 10 p.m. and Chris and I both have work tomorrow, but we will be talking to you guys after Minnesota versus Nashville FC on Saturday. Have a great night, and come on, you Loons.
Come on, you Loons.